Okay, let's unpack this. We've all been there, right? One moment you're feeling perfectly fine, centered, maybe even a little zen, and then bam, a seemingly innocuous comment, maybe a specific sound, or even just a fleeting memory, and suddenly you're spiraling. An intense emotional reaction just floods through you, one that feels wildly out of proportion to whatever just happened. You know that sensation, right? When it feels like a hot button has been pushed and you're instantly thrown off balance. It's not just about being in a bad mood. It's when a recurring situation or, specific interaction seems to come out of nowhere and completely derails your progress, snatches away your calm. Today, we're diving deep into understanding and, crucially, managing those moments, those very specific emotional triggers that keep popping up and throwing you off your game.
Yeah. And what's truly fascinating here is that while these moments can feel incredibly chaotic, like an emotional ambush almost, there's actually a profound science behind them. There's a logic to the hijack, even if it feels totally illogical in the moment. So our mission today is really to pull back the curtain on the why and how of emotional triggers. We're leveraging the insights from a really powerful stack of sources you've provided us with, ranging from like cutting-edge neuroscience research to incredibly practical, actionable therapeutic approaches. Think of this as your shortcut to becoming well-informed, not just about what triggers are, but how they operate within you. We'll help you recognize these deep-seated patterns and ultimately transform your automatic responses into more thoughtful reactions. This isn't just about coping, it's about building genuine resilience and, frankly, significantly elevating your emotional intelligence in the face of life's unpredictable moments.
Exactly. Our sources for this deep dive are incredibly rich. We're drawing from clinical studies on brain function, really digging deep into how our gray matter actually processes these intense, often overwhelming moments. But we're also pulling from incredibly practical toolkits designed for daily self-management, the kind of advice you can put into practice today, in your own life.
Right.
It's a powerful blend, really. The scientific rigor that explains why something happens, paired with actionable advice that shows you how to change it. Our ultimate goal for you, our listener, is that by the end of this deep dive, you won't just understand why you react the way you do. More importantly, you'll have a clear, tangible path to gaining more control and calm in those challenging, often frustrating moments. You can think of it as becoming a kind of mental cartographer, mapping those uncharted territories of distress with precise terminology, turning confusion into genuine clarity and mastery.
Mapping the pattern.
So let's start at the very beginning with the fundamental question. What exactly is an emotional trigger? At its core, an emotional trigger is anything, and this can be incredibly broad. A memory, a specific experience, a word someone says, a sound, even an external event like a sudden change in plans that sparks an intense emotional reaction within you.
Right.
And here's the key. It happens regardless of your current mood, and the reaction often feels wildly disproportionate to the actual immediate incident. It's like a small match igniting a massive bonfire. Now, while these are famously and correctly associated with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, it's absolutely crucial to understand that emotional triggers are something just about everyone experiences in their daily lives.
Yeah, that's a really important point.
They're not exclusive to severe trauma. They're a common, often frustrating part of the human emotional landscape that can trip us up when we least expect it.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the reason these reactions feel so involuntary, so intense, lies deep in our brain's ancient architecture. Pretty fascinating. You see, normally our neocortex, that's the sophisticated, wrinkly outer layer of our brain, the seat of our reasoning, our logic, rational thought, it's usually busy monitoring our reactions.
The thinking part.
The thinking part, exactly. It helps us pause, consider, make wise choices about how we speak and act. It's our internal CEO, if you like. But when we're triggered, control is literally seized by a much more primitive, faster part of our brain called the amygdala. This phenomenon is often referred to as emotional hijacking.
Hijacking, yeah.
Imagine it like this. Your amygdala is like a super fast, maybe overprotective guard dog that just barks at shadows. Before your logical brain, the calm, thoughtful trainer, can even fully see what's happening, the dog's already lunging and barking furiously. This tiny almond-shaped group of neurons, nestled deep within our temporal lobes, is a key part of our limbic system. Its primary evolutionary role is processing and storing memories of emotional reactions, especially those tied to survival responses like fight, flight, or freeze.
Survival stuff.
Exactly. What's truly problematic for modern life is that the amygdala receives signals and reacts in milliseconds before our cortex even has a chance to fully process the incoming information.
Milliseconds, that's incredibly fast.
Incredibly fast.
Yeah.
This primitive neural system was brilliantly designed for our survival in, say, the age of dinosaurs, right? When real physical threats were constant and immediate action meant the difference between life and death. The problem is it simply cannot distinguish between an emotional threat to our ego, like someone being dismissive of our ideas, and an actual physical threat to our body.
So it treats them the same.
Pretty much. So if your boss makes a critical comment, your amygdala might react as if your life is in danger, flooding your system with stress hormones. This primal takeover can leave us feeling completely incapable of dealing with the situation at hand effectively, often leading to actions or words that we later deeply regret once that powerful hormonal rush finally subsides and our rational brain comes back online.
Right, the aftermath regret. We've all felt that. And here's where it gets really interesting, because these triggers, as you said, are incredibly personal. What might send one person into a complete tailspin could roll right off another person's back like water off a duck.
Exactly.
This tells us they don't just appear out of thin air, they arise directly out of our unique life history, our experiences, and the meaning we've attached to them over time. Remember, the amygdala doesn't just initiate that lightning-fast fight-or-flight response. It also forms and stores emotional memories, especially those connected to painful or overwhelming events.
It's the memory bank, too.
Right. So the intensity of your current reaction isn't just about the immediate incident you're facing in this very moment. It's about a lifetime of similar experiences, often unconscious ones, that have been stored and are now flooding back, amplifying the current feeling.
That makes so much sense.
Think of it like a core wound, an initial shock to our system, often originating way back in childhood, that becomes a deeply ingrained template for later hurts. It's a vulnerability, a raw spot that's so sensitive, so painful, that we become desperate, often unconsciously, to avoid feeling it again. Imagine, for example, a child who was constantly told they weren't smart enough, no matter how hard they tried in school, maybe from a well-meaning but overly critical parent, or maybe constant comparison to a high-achieving sibling.
Yeah, that's common.
That repeated message could ingrain a core wound of intellectual inadequacy. Years later, as an adult, a simple constructive critique from a colleague at work, intended to help them grow and improve, might trigger an explosive, disproportionate reaction. Shame, anger, maybe even a complete shutdown.
Right, because it hits that old wound.
Exactly. Their amygdala isn't just reacting to the feedback itself, but to that ancient, unhealed wound of "I'm not good enough," making the current moment feel overwhelmingly painful and dangerous. Other common core wounds might stem from things like not feeling valued, being left out by peers, experiencing emotional neglect, or even subtle forms of abuse. They all leave lasting imprints that become these sensitive spots, these emotional pressure points.
And this raises an important question that we often hear. What's the fundamental difference between an internal and an external trigger? It's a really crucial distinction for self-awareness.
Okay.
An internal trigger is something that originates from within you. It could be an emotion, a thought, a physical sensation, or a memory that reminds you of a past trauma or difficult experience. For instance, you might experience a surge of anxiety before an important work presentation, and that specific feeling of anxiety reminds you of how an abusive ex-partner used to make you feel anxious and small before a confrontation.
Okay, so the feeling itself is the trigger.
Exactly. The trigger isn't the presentation itself, but the internal feeling of anxiety linked to that past experience. On the other hand, an external trigger is something in your environment that's outside of you. It could be a specific smell, a particular sound, a sight, a phrase someone says, or even a specific date on the calendar that brings back a distressing memory.
Like a song on the radio or something?
Precisely. Maybe the smell of a certain type of cologne triggers memories of a past trauma, or a loud, unexpected noise brings you back to a moment of fear. It's also really vital to distinguish between simply being activated and truly being triggered.
Okay, activated versus triggered. What's the difference there?
So when you're activated, your nervous system has entered a general fight-or-flight state, sensing a broad threat. You might become defensive, irritable, angry, or frantic, maybe even overly people-pleasing as a coping mechanism.
Right, just generally stressed out.
Yet your nervous system is detecting information that it perceives might be a danger to your physical or emotional safety. It's a general alarm. However, being triggered specifically means that this activation, this heightened state, brings you back, almost in a vivid replay, to a specific past event. You re-experience the emotions, the sensations, often the helplessness from that particular, maybe traumatic memory. It's a specific link to a past event that defines a true trigger.
That's a really helpful distinction, the link back to a specific past event. Okay, so now that we have a better grasp on what these emotional hijackings feel like and how they originate, the next truly crucial step is identifying your unique trigger patterns. Because to gain control over these powerful emotional reactions, you first need to know what you're dealing with, right?
Absolutely.
It's about becoming a detective of your own inner world. Self-awareness is truly the foundational step in managing triggers. It's the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors, and importantly, how they affect both you and others around you. This isn't just a nice to have, it's a cornerstone of psychological well-being. And for our purposes today, it helps you become that mental cartographer we mentioned, meticulously mapping those uncharted territories of distress, looking for those recurring patterns.
Exactly. Spotting the patterns is key.
Without this awareness, you're essentially at the mercy of your triggers, reacting impulsively, often repeating cycles you desperately want to break. But with awareness, you suddenly have the possibility of making different, more conscious, more empowered choices.
And what's fascinating here is how our bodies often tell us the truth, even when our minds might be trying to, you know, lie or deny what's happening, maybe out of shame or trying to minimize the situation.
The body keeps the score, as they say.
Precisely. When a situation generates a strong emotional response, you need to listen not just to your churning thoughts, but profoundly to your body's signals. Beyond surging emotions like intense anger, profound sadness, or overwhelming fear, you might experience very specific physical symptoms. These are often the earliest and most reliable telltale signs.
Like what?
Things like a pounding heart, a sudden upset stomach, or that knot in your gut, shakiness in your hands or voice, maybe a dizzying sensation, or even just sweaty palms. These bodily cues are often the very first indicators that you're stepping on one of what psychotherapist Rachel Harley calls landmines.
Landmines, yeah, I like that analogy.
She wisely says, you didn't put them there, but they're still there. So to recognize a trigger, a practical first step is to assess your physiological state. Are you hyperaroused, meaning anxious, nervous, fearful, intensely angry, irritable, maybe you can't slow down or sit still?
Okay, ramped up.
Or are you hyperaroused, which might look like a sudden feeling of depression, emotional numbness, feeling shut down, profound sadness, or even dissociation where you feel detached from reality.
Sitting down.
Right. If a specific sight, smell, sound, phrase, or situation consistently brings you to one of these heightened states, either hyper or hypo, chances are it's a trigger for you. It's about noticing the pattern, seeing those internal alarm bells go off repeatedly in similar context.
Okay, noticing the consistency, the pattern. So what does this all mean for you in daily life? How do you actually start to apply this body awareness? When you notice those physical and emotional signs, the first powerful action is to deliberately step back, metaphorically or even physically, if you can, and just consider what just happened and the intense response it activated within you.
Create some space.
Yeah, create that space. Once you've got that small pause, try to trace the roots. Think back to other situations, maybe even seemingly unrelated ones that made you feel this exact same way. For instance, maybe your partner not noticing or complimenting your meticulously cleaned apartment brings you straight back to feeling like a teenager, desperately trying to earn approval from an indifferent parent. Feeling like nothing you did was ever good enough to truly impress them or gain their affection. The current frustration isn't just about the apartment, it's echoing that ancient feeling of unworthiness.
Following the thread back.
Exactly. It's about following those familiar feelings and sensations back to their earliest origins, identifying the patterns that link the current event to your past experiences. And if the connection isn't immediately clear, the next crucial step is to get curious about the patterns you observe. Just be curious.
Yeah, curiosity over judgment.
Totally. For instance, if you find that relationship discussions consistently bring up feelings of intense envy or deep frustration, you might start to uncover a deeper fear of abandonment, maybe a fear of being alone, or a past experience of betrayal that's being reactivated without you realizing it. This profound curiosity allows you to unearth the deeper, less readily accessible emotional and physical feelings that drive the whole pattern of getting triggered, often tracing all the way back to that core wound we talked about earlier. It's about piecing together the puzzle of your emotional responses, spotting those recurring themes.
And this brings us to a really crucial strategy for systematically identifying these patterns over time: the trigger journal.
Journaling. Always comes back to journaling.
It's powerful. Regularly tracking your emotions in such a journal can be incredibly valuable, turning vague feelings into concrete data you can actually work with. This consistent practice allows you to reveal specific patterns that might otherwise remain hidden. Recurring terms that pop up in your self-talk when you're upset. Specific situations you find yourself in repeatedly when you feel derailed. Maybe even times of greater vulnerability when you're more susceptible.
Like when you're tired or stressed already.
Exactly, when you're overtired, hungry, under significant stress. This disciplined practice encourages deep reflection on your emotional responses to various situations, helping individuals to recognize those invisible patterns that consistently lead to being triggered.
So how would you do that practically?
It's simple, really. When you feel activated or triggered, just jot down what happened, who was involved, what were you thinking, what were you feeling, both emotionally and physically, and what did you do or say. Over time, you'll start to see a map emerge, a map of your personal trigger patterns. You can also actively ask trusted friends or family members for feedback. Sometimes, because they aren't caught in the emotional whirlwind themselves, they can observe our triggers more clearly than we can.
A friend pair of eyes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
offering an invaluable external perspective on our emotional blind spots. For example, a 2023 Bristol University trial found that participants who consistently tracked their moods in journals identified 3 very common triggers. Time pressure, which often manifested physically as chest tightness.
Okay.
Social interactions, which could subtly cause vocal tremors or a tightness in the throat.
Yeah.
And uncertainty, which frequently led to distracted thinking or mental fogginess. These simple, consistent observations, whether from journaling or trusted feedback, can provide profound, actionable insights into your unique emotional landscape and help you pinpoint exactly where those landmines lie, where those patterns repeat.
Okay, so once you've started to recognize these recurring patterns and identify the specific landmines, the next incredibly powerful step is what we call emotional naming.
Hmm.
It's about giving clear, precise labels to those overwhelming sensations.
Name it to tame it.
Exactly. Think of it, as we said, as mental cartography. You're meticulously mapping the uncharted territories of distress with precise terminology, bringing order to what often feels like internal chaos. This approach works like a vital pressure valve, creating crucial psychological space between the trigger and your automatic, often regrettable reaction. Instead of being completely consumed by a vague unease, a generalized anxiety, or formless anger, you begin to identify the specific nature of what you're feeling. You turn it from an overwhelming thing into a manageable item.
And what's truly fascinating here and really quite empowering is the profound biological foundation for why this seemingly simple act of naming emotions is so powerful.
Okay, the science bit.
Yeah, the science bit. Research, including pioneering studies from University College London, shows that articulating your inner experiences, putting words to what you're feeling, actively activates your prefrontal cortex.
The thinking brain again.
The thinking brain, the CEO, the part responsible for logical thinking, executive function, decision-making, self-control. And it happens fast, within an astonishing 0.3 seconds. This region effectively acts as a biological handbrake, slowing down the amygdala's primitive, reactive fight-or-flight response by redirecting neural resources away from those reactive emotional centers.
Wow, just by naming it.
Just by naming it. Imagine it this way. When you put a precise name to that swirling, overwhelming feeling, you're not just complaining or passively observing, you're actively rewiring your brain in real time. Functional MRI scans actually reveal reduced blood flow to those hot, reactive emotional centers, like the amygdala, during the verbal articulation of feelings.
That's incredible.
It's like your words become a remote control, hitting the calm down button for your emotional centers. For instance, a 2023 study found that participants who described their anxiety specifically as outcome uncertainty experienced an 18% lower heart rate spike compared to those who didn't articulate it.
Just being specific like that.
That specificity helps.
Mhm.
This downregulation happens because precise words trigger the release of gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, into your system. Think of GABA as your brain's natural chill-out chemical, or maybe the mute button for an overly loud alarm.
Okay, Baba.
When you give your emotion a name, you're essentially encouraging your brain to release this calming agent, helping to quiet that inner storm almost immediately. Dr. Rebecca Brewer's team at Royal Holloway further demonstrated through speech analysis trials that verbal articulation doesn't just describe feelings, it literally physically alters how the brain processes them.
It changes the processing.
Yes. Measurable changes include significantly dampened amygdala reactivity within a remarkably fast 5-7 seconds, enhanced connectivity between the brain's language centers and its emotional regions, and an increase in alpha wave patterns, which are typically associated with calm focus and a state of rest. Regular, consistent practice of this simple technique actually strengthens these neural pathways, leading to measurable and lasting reductions in emotional intensity over time.
Okay, so what does this actually mean for you in your daily life? How can you apply this powerful neuroscience when you feel a trigger taking hold? Well, instead of using vague, broad, often unhelpful terms like stressed or freaking out, trying a precise descriptor like overwhelmed or under pressure can actually trigger a problem-solving mode in your brain.
Right, makes it less scary.
Exactly. Suddenly, it feels like a defined challenge rather than a nebulous threat. Similarly, describing simple frustration not just as anger, but maybe as disappointment or impatience, doesn't just feel more accurate. It creates crucial psychological distance from the raw intensity of the emotion, making reactions easier to navigate.
Gives you perspective.
Right. Consider a common scenario. You're about to give a public presentation, heart's racing, palms are sweaty. If you label that internally as generalized panic or I'm having an anxiety attack, you're likely to escalate the physiological arousal.
Yeah, you feed the panic.
But if you mindfully label it as performance adrenaline or maybe pre-presentation jitters, you often find that your physiological arousal lowers. Studies have even shown that this precise labeling practice can reduce cortisol levels, your primary stress hormone, by up to 23% within just minutes.
Wow, that's significant.
It really is. This shift in internal language, from vague dread to precise description, provides you with a deeper understanding of your own emotional landscape and, critically, an opportunity to respond more effectively and intentionally, rather than just reacting on autopilot.
We connect this to the bigger picture. The specificity in emotional naming truly matters. The goal here isn't to eliminate emotions altogether. They serve vital functions, right? They communicate to ourselves, to others, prepare us for action.
Yeah, they're useful signals.
Exactly. Instead, it's about profoundly changing our relationship to them. By identifying the exact emotion you're feeling, say annoyance, instead of a broad, all-encompassing anger, or maybe unease instead of just fear, your emotional experience might naturally downregulate itself. You might realize that the situation isn't as intensely overwhelming as it first seemed when it was just a vague, unnamed feeling swirling around.
It takes the power out of it a bit.
Precisely. This precision allows you to respond with greater control and intentionality, leading to what some researchers call linguistic resilience, the ability to reframe overwhelming, chaotic internal states into solvable, manageable challenges.
Linguistic resilience, I like that.
Yeah. And to help expand your emotional vocabulary beyond those broad, often unhelpful categories like just anger, sadness, fear, happiness, disgust, love, guilt, envy, and jealousy, many resources suggest using an emotion wheel.
Ah, the wheel.
Yeah, the wheel. Imagine it like a color wheel, but for feelings, right? With primary emotions at the center and more nuanced variations radiating outward.
Like shades of emotion.
Exactly. These visual tools can help you pinpoint more granular feelings, like moving from anger to irritation, frustration, rage, or maybe resentment. This practice further enhances your self-awareness and regulation skills, making it easier to pinpoint the exact emotional trigger you're experiencing and name it accurately. #IV. Practical techniques for managing reactions and state shifting.
Okay, so once you've diligently identified your triggers through those patterns and you've started mastering the art of naming them, the next powerful step is active management. Getting practical.
Right. What do you do?
Exactly. Robert Gass and Judith Ansara, in their Practical Managing Your Triggers Toolkit, outline a powerful 4-step practice for what they call state shifting when you feel a trigger taking hold. This is vital because, as they emphasize, while we don't choose if we get triggered, our triggers are often wired deeply into our upbringing and life history, we do have a choice about what happens next, about our response.
We have agency.
We have agency. This practice helps you manage yourself even when your ability to think clearly has momentarily been hijacked by that primitive fight-or-flight response. So let's break down these 4 crucial steps. First, name it. This is the crucial initial step, that internal declaration to yourself, I'm triggered, this is what's happening. We just covered why that's so important.
Step 1.
Step 2, take space appropriately. This means removing yourself, if possible and safe, from the immediate triggering situation. This step is about preventing further re-triggering and giving yourself a crucial moment to avoid impulsive, regrettable actions.
Hit pause.
Hit pause, exactly. Third, shift your state. Consciously use immediate tools and techniques to speed up your recovery, regain emotional balance, and bring your rational brain back online. We'll get into those tools.
Okay.
And finally, step 4, deal with the situation. Only once you are truly centered, calm, and balanced, with full access to your intelligence and capacity to solve problems, can you then assess the situation and act thoughtfully rather than reactively.
Makes sense. Name it, take space, shift state, then deal.
Exactly.
So when you're triggered, as we've explored, you're fundamentally not fully in the present moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your primitive brain has taken over, pulling you back to a past event or perceived threat. That's why grounding techniques are such immediate and powerful strategies in that shift your state step.
Grounding. Okay.
They're designed to help you stay present and organize your thoughts, literally reorienting yourself to your current environment. One deeply effective physical technique is to connect with the ground, literally focusing all your awareness on your feet, the sensations of contact with the floor, your shoes, the earth beneath you.
Just feeling your feet.
Just feeling your feet. You can slowly move your awareness from your heels through the arch to the ball of your foot, then each individual toe, savoring each connection. Try squeezing each toe firmly into the ground and then releasing it, noticing the subtle but distinct felt difference between tension and release. This simple act anchors you right back to the present moment.
Okay, I can see how that would work.
Another widely used and incredibly effective method is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right?
Yeah. In this exercise, you systematically engage your 5 senses, pulling your attention back to your immediate surroundings. You identify 5 things you can see around you: the color of the wall, a book, your hand; 4 things you can hear: the hum of the fridge, traffic outside, your own breathing; 3 things you can touch: the fabric of your clothes, the texture of your chair, your hair;
Touching things.
2 things you can smell: your coffee, a plant, maybe hand sanitizer these days; and 1 thing you can taste: the lingering taste from your last drink, or just the inside of your mouth. This isn't just a mental exercise. It fundamentally shifts your brain's focus away from the internal storm.
Gets you out of your head.
Exactly. There's also robust scientific backing for rapid physiological cool-down techniques. Splashing cold water on your face for 10 or more seconds, or holding an ice cube in your hand, can quickly activate your parasympathetic nervous system.
The cold shock.
Yeah, that cold shock response. This branch of the nervous system is responsible for rest and digest, effectively slowing your heart rate and soothing inflammation after a stressful event. It helps you regain composure and bring your system back to baseline quickly. It's like hitting a biological reset button.
Okay, so grounding, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cold water. What else?
Oh.
Well, beyond those immediate grounding techniques, controlled respiration or mindful breathing acts as a biological amplifier for that precise emotional labeling we talked about earlier.
Breathing, always key.
It's not just deep breathing, it's conscious breathing. Try a specific 4-step deep breathing routine. First, inhale deeply through your nose for a slow count of 4, really filling your lungs. Okay. Second, hold your breath gently for a count of 4 while mentally scanning your bodily sensations, noticing any tension or discomfort.
And more.
Third, exhale slowly and deliberately through your mouth for a count of 6 or even 8, letting go of that tension, and as you exhale, assigning clear descriptors like tense shoulders, fluttering chest, or tight jaw to what you're feeling, naming it as you breathe out.
Pairing them.
Yeah, pairing them. And fourth, repeat the cycle until your physical cues start to align with your verbal labels, noticing the tension ease as you name it. Research actually shows that pairing breathwork with specific terms like this accelerates calming by a significant 22% compared to generic relaxation techniques.
Wow, that pairing makes a difference.
It really does. Also, mindful self-talk strategies are absolutely critical in these moments. Instead of automatically saying to yourself, "I'm so angry," or "I can't believe this is happening," try reframing it as a curious observation.
That curiosity again.
Exactly. You might say, "I notice heat rising in my chest. Perhaps this is frustration about boundaries being crossed." Or, "My stomach feels tight. I'm identifying this as anxiety about an uncertain outcome." This subtle reframing validates your internal experiences without judgment, creating crucial psychological space for problem solving. It also strengthens the neural pathways that support future self-regulation, making the process feel less like a struggle against yourself and more like second nature over time. It helps you recognize the pattern of your triggered response more quickly next time.
And this raises an important question. What about when others are directly involved in triggering situations? It's a complex dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, because it often involves other people.
Right. While your emotional reactions are ultimately your responsibility, understanding that most people don't intentionally try to upset you is a crucial perspective to hold on to. Often, they might be dealing with their own triggers, their own internal struggles, or other factors you aren't aware of.
Like your example of the partner not noticing the cleaning because they had bad news.
Exactly. They might just have received genuinely bad news at work and need space to decompress, completely unaware of your efforts or your expectation. So once you've regained your calm and shifted your state, using those techniques, it's important to communicate using I statements.
I feel statements.
Precisely. This helps avoid similar situations in the future and builds understanding without placing blame. For example, instead of yelling, "Where did you put my tape? You always do this."
Hmm.
Try calmly saying, "I feel frustrated when I can't find my things, especially when I need them urgently."
Less accusatory.
Much less. Or, "I feel undervalued when my efforts to tidy up aren't acknowledged." This focuses on your feelings and the specific behavior, rather than accusation, which usually just escalates conflict. Conversely, when someone else is triggered, avoid trying to reason with them, lecture them, or accuse them of overreacting.
Yeah, that never works.
It almost always pours gasoline on the fire and makes them feel even more attacked and defensive. Instead, if you're also feeling triggered, take appropriate space first. Get yourself calm. Then, when you're both calmer, try to create connection through deep listening. Offer empathic responses like, "It sounds like this is really difficult for you right now," or "I hear that the way I responded caused you to feel not respected, and I want to understand that better."
Showing you're trying to understand.
Exactly. You can also try to connect to a shared higher purpose or common ground, reminding yourselves of your larger goals or the relationship itself. And, importantly, always reflect honestly. How might I have contributed to this person being triggered, even unintentionally? Sometimes the problem might indeed be your own behavior or a misunderstanding that you can clarify. It's about recognizing the pattern of interaction as well as your own internal pattern. #V. Building long-term resilience and growth.
So ultimately, mastering these trigger patterns isn't just about reducing immediate stress or, avoiding regrettable outbursts. It's about promoting genuine emotional intelligence and profound personal growth that ripples through every area of your life.
It's bigger than just trigger management.
Much bigger. Understanding your triggers allows you to recognize your own intense emotional reactions and, significantly, those of others, which naturally enhances your empathy and compassion. It's a vital aspect of self-awareness, recognizing and understanding your own emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors, and how they affect both you and the people around you. This isn't just a quick fix. It's a continuous journey of becoming more attuned to your inner world and its profound impact on your outer experiences, leading to a much richer, more fulfilling life.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, regular, consistent practice trains your brain to quite literally rewire itself. It learns to reframe chaotic, overwhelming internal experiences into manageable narratives.
Practice makes permanent, right?
Exactly. Consistency is truly crucial here, just like strengthening a muscle. Those maintaining daily labeling journals for 6 months demonstrated 37% higher resilience scores in those Bristol University trials compared to a control group.
37% higher, that's huge.
It clearly shows how this consistent practice becomes a powerful, positive habit over time. Daily micro-practices are particularly effective for building these new neural shortcuts, new, healthier pathways in your brain.
Micro practices, like
Yeah.
small things.
Yeah, brief, bite-sized efforts you can weave into your day without much disruption. For example, a 2-minute morning check-in. As you wake up, before even getting out of bed, just scan your body for physical sensations and label them without judgment. Noticing anticipation tension in my stomach or identifying restful heaviness in my limbs? Simple awareness.
Yep.
Another great one is a commute commentary. As you drive or ride, verbally or mentally label passing thoughts and feelings. Labeling this as schedule anxiety because I'm worried about traffic or I'm experiencing impatience at this delay, recognizing it as a minor frustration.
Just noticing and naming on the go.
Precisely. These simple exercises, as Leeds University found, can lead to a remarkable 19% reduction in amygdala reactivity within just days.
Within days, wow.
Yeah, it starts working quickly. Dr. Helen Carter from Leeds University further notes that our brains treat well-defined challenges as solvable puzzles. This precise naming and understanding, this mapping of your emotional territory and patterns, leads to an impressive 27% faster problem-solving in controlled experiments.
Faster problem solving, too.
Yes, because it helps you define the problem, generate alternatives, and choose effective solutions, rather than being paralyzed by vague overwhelm or a reactive emotional storm.
Okay, so what does this all mean for your actual daily life? Beyond just managing immediate distress, integrating this practice of identifying and naming your trigger patterns leads to a wide array of significant, tangible benefits.
Like what?
Well, you'll experience vastly improved decision making, as your judgment will be less clouded by reactive impulses and more informed by calm, clear thought. You'll build stronger, more authentic relationships because you'll communicate your needs more effectively and empathize more deeply with others, maybe understanding their own potential triggers better.
Makes sense.
And of course, you'll achieve heightened self-awareness, leading to a greater sense of mastery and calm over your inner world. It's truly about befriending your feelings, as one workshop participant beautifully put it, rather than fighting against them or being run by them.
Befriending them, I like that.
Yeah. For example, a Leeds teaching hospital trial found that nurses using this approach reported 22% lower burnout rates,
Wow, in nursing, that's huge.
clearly showing the professional benefits of this practice in high-stress environments. And Cardiff University observed 41% higher relationship satisfaction scores among consistent practitioners,
41%.
highlighting the profound impact on personal connections and overall well-being. It really makes a difference across the board.
But this raises an important, very human question. Will you ever stop getting triggered entirely? Is that even the goal?
Yeah, can you just eliminate them?
The honest answer is probably that some degree of triggering seems to be an inherent part of being human. We'll always carry the imprints of our life history and past experiences. But, and this is the critical part, with consistent practice, you can profoundly shorten your recovery time. You'll start to notice you're triggered sooner, perhaps even before the full emotional hijacking takes hold.
Yeah.
You spot the pattern earlier.
Catch it quicker.
Exactly. Each time you interrupt that automatic reaction and apply these practices, naming, grounding, breathing, reframing, it's as if you're strengthening a powerful emotional muscle through repeated, intentional use. You're literally laying new, healthier neural pathways that, over time, develop into a new habit of measured, thoughtful response, replacing the old reactive patterns.
Building new habits in the brain.
That's it.
Yeah.
And for deeply ingrained triggers, especially those rooted in past traumas or chronic distress, therapy can also provide a safe, non-judgmental space to explore and heal the source of those sensitivities, complementing these powerful self-management techniques. It's a lifelong pursuit, yes, but one that yields profound, transformative results in your peace of mind and your ability to navigate life with more grace. #outrag.
So you now have a comprehensive toolkit for modern resilience. It's about transforming that vague unease into concrete descriptions, spotting those patterns, and gaining actionable insights. This isn't just abstract theory. That shift from reactive impulses to measured responses is a tangible change happening in your brain and, crucially, in your daily life. It empowers you to navigate life's complexities and those unexpected emotional landmines with greater calm, clarity, and control. It really allows you to choose your response rather than being swept away by it.
And as the ancient philosopher Lao Tzu wisely advised, do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving until the right action shows itself?
With the knowledge and practical techniques we've discussed today, you're not just passively waiting for the mud to settle, you're actively cultivating that clarity within yourself.
Taking an active role. Exactly. You're learning to observe the mud, understand its composition, those patterns we talked about, and gently guide it to settle. So the question isn't just, what will you name today, but perhaps, what new level of self-mastery will you unlock by truly understanding the precise language of your inner world and the recurring patterns that might have held you back? This journey of self-exploration and emotional intelligence is truly endless and endlessly rewarding.